Welcome back, everybody, to the Deconversionists. I am your host, Alan Bondar, the Unraveler, with my co-host, Elliot Christopherson. We are just testing to see if we can get his mic working, because it was not working before we started, but nope, he's still not working. So we're going to, you guys get to just join us while we figure out some technical issues, because it seems to be something we have every week now, which we never had before. And now all of a sudden we're having issues. But we figured out my audio issues. I wear the headset now, and that helps with my end, because for some reason it just started out of the blue. But let's see if we can get Elliot's mic to work so we can have him as part of the show tonight. Although it would be fun for Elliot to mime the whole episode. That could be cool. And then we'll see if our guest can figure out what he's saying. It could be a fun episode. This is still nothing, man. I don't know what's going on. I hear it trying, like it's something like clicking in and out. Maybe a loose cable or something. Oh, well. Yeah, it's like I keep hearing it go like it's trying, and then it's not coming through. Interesting. Well, tonight's episode is called Christian Community is Contrived. So we're going to have a fun time talking about that while Elliot is working out his mic issues, hoping to be able to join us tonight. Yeah, we've all, if you've been a Christian before and you're no longer a Christian, you remember when you would go to church and everything would be almost like an organized community for you. You'd walk in and you're sure to make friends because everybody there has something in common, Jesus. And so it's all built around this idea of God or Jesus. The whole thing is made up, of course. But when you're in the belief, you think it isn't. You think it's true. And so you have this common belief that you think is, your whole life should be based on, and everybody thinks it's true. And so it's like, building a community around an invisible friend or a mythical God or something like that. Although most of the time when you do that, it's not true. You just kind of invent it. And like Dungeons and Dragons, for example, you might get together and play Dungeons and Dragons. It's not real, but you do it because it's fun and you just have imagination and whatever. But when you go to church, you think it's real, and you think it's what's holding. You think it's the glue that holds you together. It is what God has purposed for your life, is to be in community, but not just any community. It has to be a Christ-centered community. Because if it's not Christ-centered, then it's not genuine community. It's just hanging out with people, so to speak. So, but in order to have a genuine community, you need to be a Christian. You need to go to a local church, and so that's kind of the way it's formulated. And so they create small groups, and you go and you have like Bible studies, and you start to make friends because your whole life begins to revolve around church. You go on Sundays, you go on Wednesdays, you join a ministry. There's some people that are only Sunday Christians or maybe Easter and Christmas Christians, but by and large, if you're a Christian, you want to be involved in your church. It's just part of your life. And it's, for a lot of us, it was our life. And so it's kind of weird not being a part of the church community. So you go and you make friends, and those friends, some of them you end up hanging out with, outside of church too. And you get really, really close. But all of your everything about you is tied around the centrality of God, of Christ. So that's interesting. And then of course, when you leave the faith, sometimes you can hold on to some of those friendships, but most of the time, even if you do hold on to them, they dwindle over time. They don't survive the longevity of friendship, because the one thing you had in common that held you together was God or Jesus. And so that's hard for a lot of people, and it feels like your whole life is falling apart because you've lost the central aspect to your life, your community. And so it's kind of sad when you think about it, because it was built for the purpose of only sustaining friendships around the value of Jesus. And so once you no longer have that value of Jesus, you no longer have those friendships. And I heard something. Hey, I hear you.
Hey, anything?
Hey, welcome to the conversation.
Can you hear me right now?
I can.
All right. I don't
I can
see my volume meter on the screen moving up and down,
also
so I
hear
can't be sure.
myself. I can also hear myself echoing in my ear every time I talk now.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that, remember?
Nope.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But so I get to hear myself twice, which is really edifying, by the way. There's nothing quite like hearing me say the same thing two times. There's some power in that, man. I'm telling you. It's too bad for the rest of you.
What if I mute myself while you're talking?
I don't know. Try that. Yes, and now I can no longer hear myself twice. That is odd.
So what you're saying is I should not have fixed my audio.
Your mic, you mean?
Yeah. No,
Why?
I should have stayed mute the whole time, and you wouldn't have had your echo problem.
My, I'm surprised you're not echoing to yourself because I feel like what I'm speaking through your computer speakers is bouncing back through your microphone and echoing in my ear. That's weird.
Yeah, and that could be a setting on my end. I've fucked with a lot of settings to try to get this back on.
All right, well, whatever. Nobody else is annoyed but me, so we'll just live with it. We'll move on. So I mean, or if I were to duplicate what was going on my ear, I would just say what I say and then say it again. That would be fun too. But we're not going to do that. Anyway, I have now belabored my point about Christian community being contrived, and so I could go on. But now that you've joined the conversation, Elliot, I don't know if you heard anything I was saying because you were, of course, adjusting your mic. So no big deal. Maybe you just pick up from scratch and tell us what you think about Christian community.
I, in fact, did not listen to a word you said because I was desperately trying to solve this problem.
I
So,
imagine that's true. No big deal.
Christian community. So, what's your thesis statement in one sentence again?
Christian community is contrived.
Contrived, as in like it's just not authentic.
Yeah, it's not authentic. Right, right. It's well, it's
Artificial.
built. It's yeah, it's artificial. It's built around like your unifying factor is an invisible being that, in all likelihood, does not exist. And even if it does exist, it's not like you have good reasons to think it exists. So you're just guessing anyhow if it does exist. So in a lot of ways, it's like I was expressing a few minutes ago. It's like the same thing, getting together with playing an imaginary game like Dungeons and Dragons. Most of the time, people who get together to play a game like that, they don't think it's real, but it's their unifying factor. And when they walk away, there's more to their lives than just this game or these imaginary figures. Whereas when it comes to Christian community, that is it. That's your unifying factor. And you and I both know what happens when you leave that. It's like, okay, what else do I have in common with this person that I'm so close to that I met at church? And even though you like the people a lot, for the most part, even if it sustains for a temporary time, usually it's like they're trying to win you back to Jesus or something like that. Or, likewise, you're trying to help them see that, there's no good reason to believe a God exists. And eventually your roads diverge. And it's understandable because if you don't have the same values, that's the way life is in all aspects of life. I think that's the case. The difference though is that in other areas of life, the values you have are genuine values. You just end up getting to a place where you may no longer agree with those values or whatever. But in the case with religion, with Christianity, the whole system's contrived. It's all made up. It's a false system to begin with, and so eventually, people who walk away, it's not about sharing values everybody else has. Everybody else has been instilled with values that are not their own. They're just taught what values they're supposed to have. What one of the things Christianity does is it tells you who you are, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to behave, who you're supposed to love. Like it teaches you everything your life is supposed to be. It even tells you what your purpose in life is. It tells you what your mission is. You are told who you are in every step of the way. So that becomes you as an individual. We talked about identity, a number of times on this show as well. So when you lose that identity, it's like you get completely lost from that community. It's like you no longer belong. You're an outcast now, and it's a very difficult place to be. And so finding a new community is hard sometimes because for a lot of us, like me especially, I never understood what community was like outside of church community. Without a faith community, I didn't know how to build relationships. It was just foreign to me. So that was one of the biggest challenges for me in leaving my faith was that how do I now make friendships, lasting friendships? What does it look like to build a relationship with people based upon who I genuinely think I am? I had to build an identity for myself first, and that was a huge challenge. And then I had to become accepting of people who have different identities than I do, and have different values, and not like the types of values like, like racist or something like that. I mean, there's a line somewhere for everybody, of course, but you can have different things that you're interested in, different purposes, different missions, whatever it is you want to accomplish in life, and you can still have great community with people like that, and not always agree on everything. In the church, it's really hard to do that. In fact, to the degree that they have, over 1,000 denominations, that when you don't agree with this set of beliefs, you get kicked out and you have to move on to the next church that has closer set of beliefs until you disagree with that. So it's like, I found that like a lot of times in church, you're just bouncing from church to church. It's like finding your different flavors of desire that you have, in that particular life. So, the core thing is Jesus, of course, but somehow even there, the communities have to become more localized and separate and segregated, because everybody can't seem to get along and understand who this Jesus is. Anyway, I'm doing a lot of talking, but that's just some of my thoughts on this subject. But go ahead, man.
So my primary complaint about Christian community is that it's not authentic. It's not organic, because you are essentially forced to be there. These are not friends that you have chosen. You might be able to choose your church, maybe, but in the end, like, you're there because you share this faith in the gospel. So it's a forced socialization. Um, Not genuine friendships, if you know what I mean. Now, you mind if I take a devil's advocate position here? Because there's a flip side to this that I just thought of. I used to say, or hold to the fact that you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And like, I no longer really believe that, in a way, because I don't believe in free will. So what I mean by that is, um, you don't go to the friend store and just pick somebody off the shelf that you really like and want to be friends with. Most of the time, maybe even 100% of the time, like, your friends are the people that you are pushed into a situation, where you have to be there. So if you mentally go through your list of friends, like, how did you meet them? Where did you find them? Most of the time, it's going to be situations like they were classmates, or they were coworkers, or they were from church, or they're your neighbors. None of these situations could you have consciously chosen, like, who you were going to associate with. You just kind of get thrown together, and then the people that sort of mesh, um, you just start kind of hanging out together and put in these little these in groups form. And I guess in a way, church is a lot like that. I can't really say that the community is as artificial as maybe I would like it to be. I'd like to say I would like to bash church as a community. I really would, because I think we're all there in that church building for the wrong fucking reasons. Oftentimes very, very harmful reasons, doing harmful things. Like, we're there under a delusion, a group delusion, believing something that is demonstrably false. Very little good can come from that. But then we take it further and we make it very tribal. And now it's like us versus the world. Like, I grew up under a pastor who was just a terrible person. Every Sunday it was hellfire and brimstone, and the church just ate it up. Like, they didn't know anything different, and they obviously agreed with him, because they would kept coming back every Sunday. And when I met my wife, um, and we were just dating, like, I took her to that church. I'm like, hey, this is my family church. And I'll never forget, on the ride home out of there, she's like, why is he so angry? And I'm like, you're right, he is. And she's like, it's as if it's him versus the world. And I'm like, yeah, holy shit, like, this guy is unhinged. But as a church group, that was normal. Like they had built a moat around their church, and it was their tribe versus everyone else. The irony is that it was a Baptist church, and less than a block away on the same city block at the end of the block was another Baptist church. And then right down the street around the corner was a third Baptist church. But here we were with a core group of probably 20 members that would come every Sunday. We had built a wall, and we had created a community that was extremely toxic, did not want to interact with the world, didn't even want to partner with neighboring churches. Like we had the truth and fuck everyone else. But at the end of the day, it's like, how much free will do you really have with the people you choose to be friends with? Like, I don't really think that we have a whole lot of choice. Because like I said, we can't just go out on the street and pick people like, hey man, I want to be your friend. It's people we're forcefully associated with, for better or worse. Like, I don't necessarily like my neighbors very much, but it's the only street that I live on. And I have to have contact with them, and I have to keep it civil, and I have to have a relationship of some sort with them on a friendly level, just in the interest of getting along. I can't choose my neighbors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yes, to some degree that is true. I mean, if we bring in the subject of free will, I mean, you know my stance on that as well. I'm with you on that position. But that being said, we do genuinely tend to be inclined to be closer to people who reciprocate, number one, the interest in being friends, who have common interests as well. So those types of things, they tend to build relationships. You know, like I frequent this bar down the street from us. It's called Main Street. Really great place. It's like Cheers now. You know, everybody knows your name, that kind of thing, and it's a lot of fun to go because I run into the same people all the time, and we laugh and we joke, and it's like the longer you're there, the more you become closer in that way. But they're never going to be the kinds of friends that I had when I went to church. You know, we're unlikely going to, you know, go out together by ourselves and just go see a movie or something like that. I mean, we might, but it's not happened yet. They're just different types of friendships, but it's a community nonetheless. And it's pretty awesome. For a lot of people, that's what they did on Sunday. They would go, and for, you know, the Sunday only, they'd go and they'd have that very surface level friendship with the people they go to, but it's your common interest. And then you go home and then you're content with that. So that was the community for them. And so there is that as well that takes place. But you and I, for example, we happened to meet online. I initiated contact, or maybe you did. I can't even remember, behind the scenes with our books or whatever, or one of my videos or something like that. I don't recall who initiated. But then I asked you to come on the show, and then just as we've been doing this together, we've become close friends to a degree where we're trying to plan even a vacation together. Like that would be really cool. And
Sure about that?
About what?
That's very presumptuous of you to say that we're very close friends.
Oh, that we're close friends. Where we're becoming close friends. I don't know. But I see. I feel like I feel like you're a close friend. So maybe you.
No, I'm being sarcastic. But have you ever heard the phrase "friends for a reason, friends for a season"? Like implying that like you're kind of thrown together for a time because you have a specific reason, and then eventually you just go your separate ways.
Yeah, sure.
You can probably apply that to every single friendship, including the ones at church. I mean, that's definitely friends for a reason, friends for a season.
Absolutely.
But I mean, most of my friends are in my past. I mean, we're not friends anymore for whatever reason. We just sort of grew apart, moved away, stopped being coworkers. It sucks, but it's just how life goes.
Sure. No, it absolutely is. One of the major differences in the church community is, when I say it's contrived, it's built intentionally. Like they design programs with the purpose of creating that community. Like they make you get into like at least I was taught, and then one of the things I would teach, because you know I really bought into the whole 5 purposes of the church, the whole Rick Warren thingamajigger. You know, it's so easy to buy into that because you know you can look in the Bible and you can see that, you know, God teaches worship, evangelism, ministry, fellowship, and discipleship, you know, and so you're like, all these things are essential, and that's God's purpose for your life, and so you know you buy into it, and so one of the essentials is fellowship. Okay, well, I have to somehow I have to be in fellowship. So I have to do this. So I got to be in a small group. And so it's whether you want to go or not, you find a small group that remotely interests you and you try to build community there, and you do. And then you end up becoming close to the people that you go to small group with every week. So it's like created for you. It's a system where you don't learn how to live in the real world and establish community without the programming that takes place there. So I think for a lot of people, they one of the reasons losing the church faith community is so hard is because it was programmed for us and made so easy that when we leave, we think, holy shit, where am I ever going to find a community like that again? And you may never, because number one, that whole community in general is contrived because it's built around a false ideal anyhow. And then the programming, you don't typically have people in your neighborhood sitting around planning programs for you to get together and have communities, unless it's a backyard Bible club, which is teaching Jesus. Now every now and then somebody will step up and have a block party or something like that. Like we had one last year or the year before, I can't remember, and that was fun. And it was cool. We hung out, whatever, but it didn't, I got to know more people's names, but I didn't really initiate any further connection with them beyond that. The ones that I was going to be friends with, I didn't need the block party for that. We were just going to be friends anyway. But it's cool to have those opportunities and hang out. But the point being that, that without that programming, it's very difficult to build community when you haven't learned how to do it. Now, one of the places we do it naturally is when we're growing up in school. You just become friends with people as you go to school. It's just for some reason it's so much easier when you're a teenager to develop friends, or usually it starts in childhood. But in my case, for the most part, I also went to youth group because I went to church every week. So even my friendships, some of them were in crossovers, right? School and church. So it made it easier to be their friends because all my friends were Christians. That's who you're supposed to be friends with. And the only reason you'd be friends with a non-Christian, there was one purpose, only one reason, is to win them to Jesus. And so they become a mission rather than a friend. And so you see everybody in light of your mission. Your purpose in life is to save people. And then your friends, your purpose in life is to help them love Jesus more. And so there's always some ulterior motive rather than just being like, just want to have a beer and just talk. It's like so I know a lot of people may not actually have thought this deeply about it when they were Christians, but I did because I was one of those really invested Christians. My whole life was about it, especially as a pastor. So that was a big deal to me. So leaving the church was very depressing for me at first because I honestly didn't know how to build friendships. So it took a lot of work for me to go out and spend time with people, go to bars, go to clubs, go wherever, get online, just, do meetup groups, whatever. That was challenging for me because I like going without any other purpose other than to meet people and get to know them for who they are, not for who I want them to be or who God wants them to be. That was a big deal for me. That was tough.
Well, I tell you how you do it as an ex-pastor. It's too bad you didn't think of this at the time, but you go out to meet these people pretending like your goal is to lead them to Christ. And that's why you're befriending them. But then you just never bring the conversation to Christ. You just hack off the last part. But you got to go in there with the mindset that, hey, I'm going to evangelize these people for Jesus like that. And it'll give you that motivation you need to meet new people.
That's a good hack.
Follow through.
That's a good hack, man. That's a good hack.
But you got to keep that pastor mindset, dude.
Yeah.
The predator instinct.
The problem is I no longer had a church to invite them to. And that was always my purpose. I always had some invite card on me or something. Like when I meet somebody, I was like, I'm going to go talk to this person at the end of the bar.
You were pretending anyway, in a way.
Yeah.
My critique of the church group, because I don't really see a huge problem with the church community because it does give people like a community. The toxic elements that I see with it are, aside from the fact that they're all congregating under something that's not true, if we can get past that, because there are groups that do that anyway. For example, Dungeons and Dragons groups or Magic the Gathering, like or gamer groups, like they come together under a banner of something that isn't true. It's a fantasy. The only difference would be at church they actually believe it's true, but it's still all fantasy, make believe stuff anyway. The
Mm-hmm.
problems that I have with the church community specifically is, first of all, how tribal they turn it into. Like it's not just a club, it's a tribe that has extremely negative views of the rest of the world. It's worse than rival sports teams, which can get pretty nasty themselves. This is, we have the truth, and fuck all of you. If you don't join us, you're going to hell. And we assume you're going to be against us, and we expect you to try to persecute us. Like they're always in combat mode. Um, Obviously, there are a lot of churches that aren't like that. They're more progressive, but at least where I come from, so I was a member of the General Association of Regular Baptist Churches. Like that was the underlying uniting factor, was us versus the world. And the world wants to persecute us, wants to shut us down, wants to stop us, and we have to stand in the way of that. The other toxic factor of the church community, which is only active after you leave it. So while you're in it, it wouldn't apply. Fortunately, I guess it depends on if you either become an apostate and you get the treatment, or you start to change your theology while you're still in the church, and then you start to get really vicious pushback. But like for me, leaving the church and becoming an ex-Christian, like that lost me pretty much every friendship I had while I was part of that community. Because yes, the only real reason that you're there is because you are on the same team. You're in the same tribe.
Yeah.
Whenever I've lost friendships, or not lost friendships, but like lost a reason to be friends, like coworkers or classmates, if I had built a sufficiently strong relationship or friendship with them, but then I left that group, like I moved away, or I left school, or I left that job, those friendships would still remain if they were important enough personally. Obviously, a lot of them you're just acquaintances with, but if you're actually genuine friends, you're going to maintain that relationship. That did not happen when I left the church community. They did not maintain those friendships. They
Yeah. No,
immediately reversed their opinion of me completely. Like, now you are a bad person, and fuck you. We're
yep.
done. And the more
Yep.
outspoken I got, the worse it got. Like they'll entertain it for a little while, like assuming that you're just having a crisis of faith or you can be brought back. But if you speak out too much, you're fucking done. Like,
Yeah.
you've now got a place at the table in hell, and it's over.
Yep. So speaking of people, so by the way, anybody from the chat or anybody, we'd love to talk to you especially if you're a Christian and would like to challenge us on this. I see Richard Sire making some comments in this comment section. Come on in, hop in the room. The link is in the chat. It's pinned to the top there. It's also in the info section underneath the video there. So yeah, click it and come on in and talk to us. We'd love to have a conversation. But yeah, it's one of the things when you leave areas. It's just natural that you're going to lose some communication with people. I mean, it's hard to sustain friendships long distance. Now the internet has helped a lot with that, and social media and stuff. So that's been changing things quite a bit. Being able to talk face to face makes a big difference. But most of those friendships, like some of the post offices I worked at, like in Maryland, even in Florida, I made some pretty significant friendships with some of them. We had a great time. We even went out together, just hang out at bars and had played cornhole or whatever. We had a great time. And outside of work, we lost some even here, just in Boyertown, friends there that I made. But just even having the 20-minute distance that I don't go there every day, you just kind of lose communication. But the difference is, I can call any of them any day and have a conversation. They would pick up, we would still talk, pick up like where we left off. That's the kind of friendships. There was no ulterior motive. We were just genuinely friendships. We had common interests. We just lost connection because of distance. But every now and then I do call them and we talk, and I'll text every now and then and throw a joke out at them, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's funny. It's good to hear from you." Whatever. A lot of my Christian friends, almost all of them, um, I can't do that with anymore. They won't answer me. They've blocked me. They won't talk to me. They're just all angry because I'm talking against God now. It's just like that's frustrating because it's like it'd be like believing Dungeons and Dragons is real and me saying it's not real, guys, and then them getting pissed off at me and never being my friend again. It's like I just wish I could wake them up to realize it's just not real, guys. Like this thing you're doing, it's cool, but not real. So to your point about having a common thing, there is. I've been watching The Last Ship. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It's an awesome show.
Yeah,
it's from a number of years back, but and I've seen it before, but my memory sucks. So the great thing about me is I can watch the same series over and over again, and it's like watching it the first time. So we're watching it again with Ray because she's never seen it, and just happened yesterday. We were watching an episode, and it was just blowing my mind. There was this moment where the new president that had replaced the 9 before them that got killed. And he was, talking about some of the bad and horrible things that he did and whatever. And then he got sucked into this group that was they were like the people, the uninfected that couldn't get infected by the virus or whatever. And they were trying to take over the world and let everybody else die and whatnot. He got, brought into it because they convinced him that there was purpose and meaning behind all the bad things that he did because he was one of the non-infected. And so that gave him meaning, and he's supposed to be the president. And he's supposed to pull the whole world back together again and do it with the non-infected so that we can build a superior world. Anyway, he was so distraught by the mistakes that he made. One of the things he had to do was kill one of his daughters because she was going to suffer from the virus, and he didn't want her to suffer, so he took her out before she did. And so he was just tormented by that, and he couldn't live with himself. But this guy gave him meaning behind it and gave him a purpose. And so that's what I feel like happens a lot with churches is you go in and you've made all kinds of mistakes, and you're an addict to something. You've sinned. You've done all these horrible things, but you come to church. And Jesus wipes the slate clean. You're forgiven here. You're just welcome. Who you are, Jesus accepts you just as you are, and then he'll change you as he sees fit. But you're just, perfect in his eyes the way you are. And so like it gives you, and now you have a mission and a purpose on top of it. And all those mistakes you made, you know what? God's going to use them in your life to affect the world for him. You know what I mean? So it's just this inspiring thing. And instead of dealing with the actual things you've done in life and having to face them, through therapy or whatever, you just kind of excuse them and push them aside or push them down and just have this new mission. And that's why it's so easy to get addicted to Christianity and get addicted to God, because now you have this purpose in it, and it feels so good to not have to feel the weight of all that you were feeling before. And now on top of you have a community, you have an army there with you that's trying to change the world, and you're all together in this. This is what I mean when I say it's contrived. Like it's a terrible system for developing community.
Well, this is an interesting point that I
hang on one second, Richard. There's a link at the top of the comments. Just click that link and it'll bring you into the room. And or you can look at the info underneath. Just click the link and you will pop right up here in our behind the scenes here, and then we'll bring you in when your camera's on. So go ahead and click that, and as soon as we see you, we'll bring you into the room. Go ahead, Elliot. Sorry.
No, you bring up an interesting point that I want to hit real fast. You mentioned addiction and giving these people a mission in life. So, like, I lost my best friend of about a decade. We were friends for about a decade. And like at some point in his life, he fell into drugs. And to make a long story short, like I was okay with that. He was one of those guys who, as long as he maintained the addiction, it was pretty low level for a while, but as long as he maintained it, like he wasn't very much different. It was just opiates. At some point he hit rock bottom though, because he got into harder drugs. And while I did support him through all of this, all of his time as an addict, he eventually hit rock bottom and he went to rehab. And in rehab, he found Jesus. Now, I've put a lot of thought into like why and how this happens to people.
All right, we
Like,
see you, Richard. Just give us just a minute to finish this thought, and we'll bring you in.
Like, why do they always turn to Jesus when they hit the rock bottom? Because there's a lot of other addictions that they could turn to, and they're involved in a lot of other things that probably give them more power or more stronger experience. But why do they latch onto this experience in particular? And the conclusion I came to is this is the only thing in life that gives them rock solid certainty. Everything else is transitive or transient. Like the drugs come and go. It's not a moral system. It doesn't give them eternal life. It doesn't give them hope, meaning, and purpose. Like this is the only thing, even though it doesn't have the same power as other things do, the same effect. Like they default to it because it finally gives them a shovel to dig their way out of anything that they're in, and it doesn't have to be real. It just gives them certainty. Certainty is very hard to find. So,
on you ready to bring Richard in? Okay, Richard, we do see you. We will bring you in as soon as Elliot's done this thought.
Yeah, on the community part, as far as losing friends, like him becoming part of that community, finding Jesus, and joining like Addicts Anonymous, he like cut me out of his life, even though I never stopped being his friend, and I was never an enabler of his addiction. But he cut me out of his life suddenly, just because I no longer believed in God. So I got the apostate treatment from somebody who had joined the community. Not like I had left the community and the community cut me off, but he joined the community. When he did join the community, then he cut me off as if I had left the church, even though we never were in church together. So just thought I'd make that point.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
It works.
All right, we're going to bring Richard in. Friendly Arian, I see your question in the chat. I'm a Christian, but I'm interested in your beliefs. Can I ask questions here in the chat? You can. We may not answer them because we're focused on the chat here happening live. So we'd like to bring you in after Richard if you're interested to dialogue with us, because we're not going to bite your head off or anything. If you just want questions answered, we'd love to do that. But if you wish to chat in the chat, you can type questions in. You'll have other people there that I'm sure will answer as well. So feel free to interact there.
Like between callers, like we will take your questions and post them if we don't have anyone else to talk to.
Yeah, if we don't have anything else to talk about, but I mean, we can't guarantee that. If anybody wants to do a super chat, of course, we will always take those because we appreciate you supporting Skeptic Haven. So with that said, we're bringing in Richard Sire. Richard, welcome to the Deconversionists. I hope that you have a good connection.
Hey, Richard.
Thank you.
So tell us, Richard, what's going on?
It's all up to you, Richard.
You're choppy. I didn't hear all you just. You're kind of in and out with the words.
Okay. Do you have a good internet connection there?
Yeah, thanks. Chopping up. Can you hear me talking okay?
Yeah, for the most part. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
You're a little choppy. Yeah.
Can you hear us at all, Richard?
Okay, because you're really choppy back at me. Yeah, I can hear. I heard you that sentence right there.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a little connectivity issue.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say, Alan, you might remember you talked to me a couple times.
Say again. Say again, Richard. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Richard?
I can hear you there.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it must be your internet connection because Elliot and I are talking just fine.
Yeah, I guess I could try to get rid of my other stuff that I got running here. Hold on. So all I need is the StreamYard up.
Just the link that you ran on
Windows. I don't know if that's going to help.
It might. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in StreamYard now.
Okay, yeah, that seems to have helped.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that seems to have helped.
I just wanted to say, Alan, we've spoken before. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, Richard. I was wondering if you were
know,
that same
we
Richard Steyer.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, when I saw the name, I was
kind of
actually hoping you'd come in because I was excited to talk to you because it's been a long time.
Yeah. 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 And so I knew you when you were professing Christ and everything, and I don't have animosity toward you or anything. You actually gave me good counsel at the time of not getting too carried away with the eschatological view that we were both interested in. So, I mean, I have friends that, are non-Christians. I was trying to think if I had friends that I was in fellowship with that left. Certainly I have, but the just names haven't come to mind. But I'm sure, I don't doubt what you guys are saying, that kind of dynamic happens where people are so motivated about their faith that they think of people as projects. So I mean, I'm agreeing with you guys on that. As far as you're talking about the idea of that there's sort of a contrived fellowship that happens. I suppose it could be that, but the whole reason, like I'm in a really good church now where we, realizing that we've been called out of, and there is one thing I commented there, I did say there is a, how shall we say, the world hates true believers, and we are called to be, not influenced by the world. So there's that dynamic of, there's a sharp distinction of different, I guess you'd say, I'm trying to search for the word goals, a different contrary allegiances, let's say.
When you say that the world hates true believers, like, how do you know that?
Well, I think if the true God and the true gospel is communicated, that there's a natural dislike and offense that happens. It really is an offense that we know that
I understand that
talk about.
I understand that you believe that, but why do you believe that?
Well, the scriptures. I mean, I believe the scriptures because God has opened up my heart and He's believed me. Not He believed. He's caused me to believe in Him.
So when Ellen and I say that, the church community is contrived, or at least my claim is that it's very tribal. It builds walls around itself and pits itself against the world. Can you see how somebody could come to that conclusion because the claim that the world hates them is an internal claim, not an external one? The world's not saying that it hates true believers. You're saying through your scriptures that the world hates true believers. So you're the one building the wall, not the world.
Well, I mean, I think you could look at the world and where true believers are communicating that truth, the true God, about the true God and the gospel, they do get a pretty high level of persecution, actually. And so that's sort of an evidence too that you can look at.
Do you feel persecuted?
Not enough. I mean,
do you feel persecuted at all?
It depends on how you define persecution. I mean,
well, you could define it for yourself. Do you feel persecuted under your definition of persecution?
Well, for sure, if I were to talk on certain moral, social related issues that are hot topics of the day at where I work, which I won't say where I work. I don't say where I work on social media in general. But if I were to do that, there would be certain, probably warnings and whatnot that would happen.
Wouldn't that
Now,
be
is
true
that
for
really tied?
wouldn't that be true for any kind of discussion on hot button topics? I mean, you don't have to be a Christian. You could say that a Democrat talking about social issue, giving his opinion on social issues in a predominantly Republican workplace would probably get some flack for that. And I don't think we'd call that persecution.
That could be. That could well be. Yeah. I mean, you have instances
I'm
where
thinking
just people are praying outside. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know.
No, go ahead.
When you consider, okay, so you said you derive this idea from the scriptures. They teach that the world, hates Christians or whatever. It is interesting because you're a full preterist, right?
Oh no, I never went full.
You
I
never
was
went
looking
full.
at
Okay.
it. No.
Okay.
I couldn't.
Either way.
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. But go ahead.
Either way, the context of the scriptures, when you read the Bible, the persecution was taking place because the battle at that time was Caesar is Lord versus Jesus is Lord. And so there's a certain political system that was set up in Rome, and it was that Caesar is Lord. In come these Christians, and they're like, no, Jesus is Lord. So obviously they're creating the hostility because they're fighting against the political system at the time. That's not happening today. We don't have that political system set up where somebody's walking around saying, oh, no, you can't say Jesus is Lord. In fact, quite the opposite. We live in a society and a culture, especially in America, where Christianity is elevated and praised more so maybe today than it has in centuries because, Christian nationalism is just like rising like nuts. So we can hardly say that Christians are being persecuted for being Christians. We have atheists now that are trying to help Christians see that the whole thing is made up and we're simply using the pen, not the sword, to speak out and talk, and we have every right to. But Christians have this feeling that, when atheists speak against our God, they're being hostile and persecuting us. No, we're not. We're just sharing an opinion just like you are about our opinions. And so this isn't remotely close to what was taking place in the Bible. So I'm not sure if you're going to use the scriptures alone, how you can draw a conclusion that the world hates Christians. That's just odd to me.
Well, I mean, I don't think a very popular view let's take America. I mean, there's lots of different, this. There's lots of different flavors of people confessing Christ, holding different doctrines. That's one of the problems with this. One of the problems with this nationalist movement, I think, is you saw this in Charlie Kirk. Actually, you saw him getting, really right before he supposedly got shot, which I'm not sure about. I'm rather conspiratorial. Something happened, don't know exactly what. But right before he spoke, he was speaking very kind words to, referencing another group of religious folks that are centered in Utah, and kind of saying, hey, I hope you guys do better. And he's saying the same things about Catholics, which are holding different views. I mean, they're holding different gospels, different understandings of God. And so anyway, I think the national movement is actually largely probably not really Christian. And they would hate someone like me saying, hey, putting their feet to the fire saying, well, people are only saved by, Christ alone, like the five solas, Christ alone, glory of God alone, faith alone. We know this by scripture alone. Those things that came out of the Reformation sort of clarified what, Christianity was all about. So I have my fears too, like you do.
Yeah.
I would say, of the nationalist movement.
Yeah, no, sure.
And I would say that there's a fair number of people that have my view that are very worried about what's happening with this Christian nationalism stuff, actually.
Yeah, and as you should.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think there's a little delay, so I may sound like I'm trying to interrupt you, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
So if you're deriving the idea that the world hates Christians from the scriptures, and that is not true, because we're living in a time that text doesn't even apply anymore, because we're not talking about being jailed or murdered or beat up. We're talking about simply sharing differences of opinion, which, as far as I can tell, is allowed. Freedom of speech, especially in this country. I don't know where in the Bible freedom of speech is not allowed.
Well, hang on real fast.
Hang on. Let me finish this thought. So interestingly, as an atheist, I don't use the Bible to dictate my views of humanity. I let reality do that. I don't use a book that was from the Iron Age to tell me how to live. So when I look at how science has developed and taught us so much about this world and this universe, I don't see some designer God behind it that wrote a book telling us who we have to be, how we have to live, who we need to love, and all this. So as a person who doesn't live by this book, I don't see that that there's any mind behind anything telling us that we have to be a certain way. So when I look at people, I see people that are homosexual, and I'm like, okay, cool, because there's no reason you can't be. It's just the universe isn't dictating whether you should or shouldn't be. Transgender, okay, whatever. I see people who wish to have sex before marriage. I'm like, all right, there's nothing wrong with that. These are just a few examples. These are the kinds of things the Bible calls sin. And so you create, as Elliot was saying earlier, this wall of division between you and the world because you dictate from a book what is moral and what is not. Whereas we're saying this book is not going to tell us how to live. That's absurd. And we just base it in reality and what we can observe from the natural realm and what science has developed for us. So perhaps you can see that it is not the non-Christian that is creating any sort of hostility. It is the Christian that is dictating these rules from a book saying, hey, if you're homosexual, you're a sinner. You're the worst. You're going to go to hell because you're a sinner. If you talk back to your mom, you're a sinner. And so they throw this around. And so they're trying to save people. And we're standing here and we're saying, what are you talking about? This is ridiculous. Why are you judging us for something that has no bearing in reality? So it creates this tension automatically because you're trying to dictate how people should live or else. And we're saying, where are you getting this? And you just keep resorting to this ancient book that tells you how to live. So I don't think it's Christian. I don't think it's non-Christians that are creating this hostility, if there is any. I think it's Christians that are building that wall and saying to the world, we're going to tell you how to live. And if you don't, then you're going to go to hell. And you expect us to like this? That doesn't make any sense. Elliot, go ahead. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
Well, I was just going to pose a question real fast to head off the persecution narrative. Richard, let's say you have any year in history to pick since the Gospels were written to be a Christian. As far as persecution, what would be the year that you would pick to be a Christian for the least amount of persecution? What would be the best time to be a Christian?
I don't have that knowledge. I mean,
wouldn't it make sense that it would be now? Now would be the best time to be a Christian if you're worried about persecution?
I mean, depending on where you're at. I mean, depending on where
Anywhere.
you physically are.
Anywhere. Anywhere at all.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard people are the persecution of Christians is still going on in various countries.
But
and then again, it depends on what you mean by persecution. I mean,
but do you think statistically it's probably at its lowest point if you look back at human history, and that would coincide with the fact that violence in general is at its lowest point it's ever been in all of human history is right now, and it's just so happens to coincide
to the fetus.
That's irrelevant. I don't know why you'd bring that up. I'm talking about
to a uniquely
violence.
Genetic individual.
That's a bit of a red herring. I don't want to discuss a social issue. I'm talking about Christian persecution, not talking about abortion. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. I get it. Well,
therefore,
I don't know.
That's the case.
I'm just being totally honest with you. I don't know how to compare the different time frames.
But if that's the case,
we know what we know largely from what we hear. Yeah.
If it's actually the case that Christian persecution is at its lowest right now, then why even talk about it in relation to this conversation? Why don't we just talk about something more productive? If now is the best time to be a Christian.
I don't know. I can't remember. I guess I brought it up. I brought it up in the conversation, I think, just because I was thinking about what you folks were saying about Christians, kind of treating unbelievers in a bad way, or people that had been believers and they flipped to unbelievers. I just think there's a natural division between the allegiance that a believer has to what unbelievers have. And I do read scriptures that talk about the need for us as Christians to be not of the world and being influenced by them, but being in the world to influence it in a positive way. And for the world is described as seeing people that believe Christians as sort of dead to the world, or dead to, I think I've got it wrong. I'm trying to reference a scripture in my mind, but the world sees true believers as sort of, it's like they can't understand them because their allegiances are so different of the things, hopefully, that they should care about, that are distinct from what the world cares about. That's all.
We
don't have to focus on that. I know that you guys were talking about the contrivance of the fellowship that happens in the church, which
there's plenty.
I suppose that can happen, but
there's plenty of groups that fit that definition that are probably far worse than Christianity as far as being outside of the world and keeping to themselves and not being of society. We've got cults everywhere. You could even say that the Mormon Church is more selective and more like walled off. It probably holds to that theology better than the general Christian church. But these groups aren't targeted necessarily. They're not persecuted. They're just ignored. The Mormon Church doesn't affect my life at all. I don't care. This Christian persecution narrative just doesn't hold water when it comes to to statistics and just the culture of Western society. We as non-Christians, we just don't care. We don't have a stake in persecuting you, but you, on the other hand, do have a theological stake in feeling persecuted, even if it's not happening. So I just think it's kind of dishonest for Christians to have that perspective and to build these walls on purpose to keep people out, to separate themselves from the rest of society.
I watched this guy named Ryan Denton. Yeah. I think the more vocal someone is about their faith, even in like the public square. Like there's a guy named Ryan Denton. He preaches a lot on campuses in Texas. And he's usually in one of those areas on the campus that are like, I don't know, safe zones probably or something like that. He's got arrested a couple times, but people heckle him, people, you know, that kind of thing. I guess I would call that kind of persecution. I mean, he's not being killed, but I guess you can make a case, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, that Charlie Kirk, even though I'm not a Charlie Kirk fan, he got shot supposedly related to his Christian faith, perhaps. I'm not saying that that's true or not, but
someone who seeks out confrontation,
the Christian message is not necessarily weak. What's that?
But Richard, you talk about people that actually go looking. You're talking about people that actually go looking for the trouble. That persecution is self-inflicted. They didn't stay in their churches. Well, the government didn't come for them. Yeah, they went out looking for it.
Yeah, but freedom of speech on a public university, which their taxes pay for, and we have the Constitution, freedom of religion. They should be able to speak freely.
And there are consequences to that.
They expect it.
If I go out into the community,
and the people that are willing to do that are willing to put up with the consequences.
If I go out and call someone the N-word and they punch me out, is that persecution for my free speech, or did I bring that on myself?
Yeah, that would be a horrible thing for someone to do. So you're comparing that to what Christians do?
I'm saying that when you talk about free speech,
I'm sure some Christians are horrible. Some people out there are horrible. I'm willing to concede that.
You have to include the fact that there are consequences for airing out your controversial opinions in public, and for people to not like it and maybe give you pushback or even get really nasty with you is not necessarily a violation. Well, it could violate your free speech, but it doesn't mean that you're persecuted as a group for your beliefs. You bring it on yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That fair enough.
If I went out and knocked on my neighbor's doors and told them they needed to stop believing in Jesus, like I would make enemies, and rightly so, because I'm taking it to them. That's the difference. The secular world doesn't take it to anybody. We're not taking it to you here. You're just on this podcast. You're coming to us. So you have to expect that when you take your views to someone on purpose, they're going to push back. It's not persecution. It's cause and effect.
Yeah.
Well, and again, to my point from earlier, that
if I look at the
Bible, you are creating that wall.
Again, I can go to the Bible.
Sorry, I just wanted to say my thought. I wanted to say again, to reiterate what I said earlier, that if on top of it, if you are saying, hey, we welcome everybody here, and then somebody comes in because they're seeking Jesus or seeking help, and they come to find out that their whole lifestyle is sinful and they're supposed to change and be somebody different, I can't tell you how many people have been mentally and emotionally damaged because they tried to be somebody they weren't, because that's what the church told them they had to be, because this is what God's model is for your life. You know, God forbid that you have sexual thoughts. God forbid that you have lustful thoughts for somebody of the same sex. You know, these are just horrid things. And so you're constantly suppressing natural desires and things about yourself. And we're here on the outside and we're saying, why are you guys doing this? This is absurd. Why are we trying to make people into something because some book tells you that has to be so? And that angers so many Christians because they think that we're speaking out against God, and God's the only standard and he's the objective standard, and we have grounding for all our beliefs. And it's crazy because, you know, when you look at the Bible, God's all over the place. So I don't know how you even ground it. That doesn't even make sense, because you can't possibly ground it in the Bible. So ultimately you're just making stuff up as you go. But either way, like if you take now that view and you populate it in your church, you're creating a community around that kind of environment, and it creates that that wall that we've been talking about. And now you got the zealot in that church community that feels like, well, they got to go save the world. And so I took my stepdaughter to a gay pride parade. First one I've ever been to. I just wanted to experience it. It was fun. But there were a few Christians there on their platforms preaching fire and brimstone against all homosexuals, reading from Romans. You're all going to go to hell because you're homosexual. And I was just like, I was embarrassed to think that was me once upon a time, that I was on that side of this camp, all because a book told me it, or more so, some people in the church who claim they interpret the book told me that was how you believe, and it just stuck with me. And then I continued to study and believed it myself, and then taught the same thing. It's a mess, Richard. It's an absolute mess. This is what community is doing in the church.
Hey,
Well, the churches I attend,
just give us a few.
I've attended. I'm sorry. Oh, is there another guy waiting?
That's okay. You can finish these thoughts. We were just telling Richie, his same name.
I don't want to take much of you guys' time.
Go ahead and say your last thought.
Okay.
We'll round it out.
I'll
But I
give it
wanted
a
to make
turn.
sure you had a chance
The
to talk.
churches I've been to, yeah, basically the main, I guess, the churches I've attended and the way I walk around, the thoughts in my head are, everyone, this, Alan, I'm sure. I don't know, Elliot, I take it you were in a Christian church too, Elliot? Okay, and that's why you're doing this deconstruction thing. Okay, or deconversion, whatever. Yeah, I basically just, I'm just, like-minded believers like myself, we just are very aware that every thought, word, and deed, we fall short of the glory of God. We're all at that level. We're all sinners. Even after we're saved on our own merits, we're still sinners, and we walk in that reality. But we also believe in this righteousness that's legally transferred to us when we believe and we're assured that his finished work is to our account, if you will. And that's the frame we're going to. It's total humility. Now, a lot of people out there come across as very unhumble, but we do believe that we've come to the truth by God's grace alone, and he chooses a people unconditionally, not based on any merit in them, to bless and to communicate that God and how God saves to others. And it should be totally at this ground of, we're not any better than you guys. The only reason why Christians are Christians is the grace alone. And that's the standpoint we come from. So anyway, I'll let the other guy go. Appreciate talking to you guys, and hope you have a good rest of your day.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. We do appreciate it. We take all perspectives here.
Richard,
anyone.
If you ever wanna pick up the phone and chat again sometime with me, let's do it behind the scenes. We can always do that, man. I thank you so much for calling in. It was so nice to talk to you again. I think we lost him. It's completely frozen. Well, hopefully you heard it. Anyway, well, that was an interesting gospel presentation at the end. That sounded extremely familiar to my style gospel presentation that I used to believe. I am so glad I am not degrading myself like that anymore. Holy shit. All right. Richie, come in and redeem us, man. I don't know, man. Help us out here, buddy.
Hey, welcome back.
I wanted to come on just to preach to you guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Maybe
hey,
it'll be better than that.
I kind of gave you a hard time last week, so I'm going to give you a lot more time to talk. So
no, I love it. I probably come on this show too much. No, you guys are awesome.
Hey, if there's nobody else on, why not?
There's no line right now, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, as far as the topic, I think that definitely a lot of when I say Christian, like Christendom as a whole, I think about like, because I just think about all the different denominations out there, the different sects, and like, because what you believe, your theology is going to affect maybe your evangelism, your tactics, as like even your apologetic method, right? So, like if you're a Calvinist, like you'll be more of a presuppositionalist, and just basically just preach at people because it's the gospel. It's right. It's God moving on your heart that's going to change you and make you believe, not through arguments or anything like that. But if you're someone who believes in like free will, like I do, it's more through like reason and evidence can help. But anyway, my point is like it. All the different denominations out there, I think that they have different methods as far as how they quote unquote get people to believe. And I think some may be more superficial than others. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, you're right by very definition. I mean, like I was part of a fundamentalist Baptist church for 35 years, and like we had a very specific type of theology. And if you caught the first part of the show, like my pastor growing up was hellfire and brimstone. He no doubt drove people away from the church. I would have been driven away from the church. We would have visitors come listen to him for an hour on a Sunday, and like they never come back. Like, well, why? Well, there's a lot of factors, but one of them is clearly that this guy's just pitting himself against the world. Like he's so filled with hate, just so angry, and there's like no way to necessarily identify like God's love in there. It's more of a, even though he wasn't a Calvinist, it was more of a Calvinist thing where I'm gonna beat you over the head with the gospel, and like it's on you. So yeah, and then you know, go down the street to an Assemblies of God, and it's more, you know, cheerful, and altar calls are much less manipulative. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these churches
They dim the lights and play the soft music, and like at the altar call, you know.
they pretend to be your friend. So yeah, a lot of these churches are manufacturing their own problems, and like I said to the last guy, like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you go hard, you're going to get hard back. Like,
Right.
what do you expect? It's not persecution. It's just cause and effect.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say too, along those lines, like, like before I became Orthodox, right, I was Pentecostal, and like you were talking earlier about people who were like drug addicts and they just come to this having like this Jesus moment, right? That was like my old pastor's whole shtick, right? He would just, he's a very charismatic man, like very, very charismatic, which usually a lot of cult leaders are. And so, but anyway, so he would just preach about sin and things like that. But like, I don't know, it was very showmanship. Like it was very like the way he preached. And it was like, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, if I was somebody who was down, like I did something really bad, like, or if I was down on my luck, like addicted to drugs, or, you know, if I cheated on my wife or something like that, like, you know, I'm already feeling bad about what I'm doing, then this guy, like the tactic is make you feel bad, realize that you have a problem. It's almost like in sales, like you get somebody to realize that they have a problem, right? You discover what their need is, you find their problem, and then you find a solution to that problem. And then the altar call is where you hook them into the sale, right? And so,
Man, you sound like you've been reading my book or something.
yeah, maybe a little bit, but yeah, kind of like, so that was his whole shtick, but that's really across the lines for a lot. But I would say, like for the in the Orthodox Church, liturgy can be pretty boring sometimes. Like it's hard to stay focused. So like you have to like really want to be there you have to like really, really want to be there to endure the service. like to show up every Sunday.
So,
Yeah, I found a lot of times, even regular church, you had to really want to be there to stay in tune because, like, man, sometimes all I wanted to do was be home. I didn't feel like being in church, but I had to be because I was the pastor. I couldn't seem to skip. I bored myself sometimes preaching.
Oh man. But oh, you were gonna say something, Elliot?
yeah, my claim is that, so you've heard of cold reading, hopefully, where a mentalist or a psychic will read people cold, meaning they don't have any inside information about those people yet. They'll just start asking them these questions, leading questions, or they will make something called Barnum statements. So a Barnum statement is something that applies to the vast majority of people, no matter what, in what context. So like, they can take a crowd and start applying these statements to the crowd, knowing they're going to catch a fish essentially, and make themselves look like they know something that they shouldn't know, proving that they're a psychic with abilities.
Mhm.
In a similar way, these pastors are doing that as well, especially when it comes to people like drug addicts. And like you mentioned, somebody that had like done something very wrong, like cheated on their wife, and they want absolution. A Barnum statement that you could use in a cold reading to the general population is very simple. Every person is looking for something. They're searching for something, because evolution has programmed us to never be satisfied, to always be searching, because if we stop seeking resources, we'll die. So we're always hungry in a way, hungry for something. Like we just can't get satisfaction. If you apply that to the general population, and then you realize that there's nothing transient that there's no resource you could give them that would satisfy them, but you offer them something else on top of that they can't necessarily prove, something abstract like eternal life or hope, meaning, and purpose through a God, or all this certainty. You offer them certainty through a religion. You're finally giving them something that they can like plant their flag on or build their foundation on for the rest of their life. They're giving them certainty they're not going to find anywhere else. Does not have to be true whatsoever. All you have to do is offer it, and you're going to get a percentage of the population, just like you would in a cold reading, that are going to raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, that's me. And like, everyone knows intuitively, like the drug addict, they know that the drugs are transient. They know they're going to build a tolerance to them. They're going to have withdrawals. All these bad things are going to happen. They can never feel, they're chasing the dragon forever, ever since the first drug. But you offer them something to replace that with that's like immortal. Like, it does not have to be true at all.
Well, and the thing about the Christian message is that it so not in the secular world or anything in marketing in the world out there, not every product will apply to every person, because no matter how much you try to create that need in somebody, sometimes there's just going to be people that just don't ever have that need. They're just never going to have it. With Christianity, everybody has the problem. Like, you can pretty much nail it down no matter what. Like, well, have you ever talked back to your mom? See, you're a sinner. Oh, you didn't do that? Did you ever lose your temper? Oh, see, you're a sinner and you need Jesus. So like, it doesn't matter what you do. There's always a reason why you need Jesus. And so it's very manipulative in that way, because it's like, no matter the issue, that's a sin. And like you were saying earlier with the guy that would preach all the time, like, if you come in with already feeling down, the best thing I can do is kick you while you're down, beat you down so much and degrade you until you're just like, I need this Jesus. Because if I let you leave without thinking you desperately need Jesus and can't live without him, you might never come back.
Sure. Yeah, I think too. So in sales, right? Generally, what gets people to buy something is some kind of an emotional connection, or like people buy based on emotion, but they justify their purchase through logic. So like, you know, yeah, if I buy something, like, or if my wife buys something, she's like, you know, like something in the ad or whatever, when she's on Amazon, whatever, something tugged at her heartstring, and then she's like impulse bought it or whatever, and then she'll be like, well, you know, we need it for this, this, and this, you know, so she'll like justify it later with logic. And so generally what I see with like apologists is that they had some kind of encounter with God. I mean, sometimes like they do come to God based on reason, but sometimes like they do have these encounters and then they justify it like using like apologetic arguments. Like they're justifying their experience that they had, right? So I mean that's kind of my observation.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking and bringing in what I was saying a few minutes ago is that one of the ways in which the community, because that's our topic today, is contrived, is that there's essentially two things, I suppose, that creates the fellowship atmosphere in the church, the unity. It's that we're all desperate and in need because we're sinners, and we all believe Jesus is the solution to that problem. And so, so it's contrived in that way because outside of Christianity, I don't live degraded anymore. Like, I feel very proud of who I am. I have no problem praising myself for my own accomplishments. I don't need to be like, well, but for the grace of God, there go I. I don't live like that anymore. But I used to have to degrade myself as a Christian all the time. Like the minute I used to think a proud thought, I'd be like, oh man, but pride cometh before the fall, you know? And so you like this is a common, at least in the churches I was in, this is a common element that creates this unity because you can look around and be like, well, we're all equally sinners. There's nobody better than anybody else at anything. We're all the worst. We might as well be Hitler, but we have Jesus, you know? And so we have this unifying factor. I don't have that out in the world. I don't look for people to degrade or that are degraded. I don't look to try to find somebody that's my equal in horribleness so that I can build a relationship with them around this other guy named Jesus. I don't need a third party between us. Like, I'm just friends with them. I don't need Jesus getting in the way, but he is. He's always a part of the relationship in Christianity. You got to have Jesus in there. Even in sex, like, bro, I can't even tell you how many like I don't know if you know who John Piper is.
Yeah.
I used to like I loved John Piper. I mean, he was like my freaking hero, man. Learned so much from him. In fact, I'm glad I did, because even today, like his whole concept of hedonism, I'm like still on board with. I just don't think you need to put Christian before it. But be that as it may, one of the things he taught was about sex and the supremacy of God. I don't know if you ever heard his messages on that or his teaching on that. And I bought this thing because it made sense to me at the time, because God needs to be a part of everything. So the whole idea was, when you're having sex, part of the glory of sex is that God is present there with you in the bedroom. And I'm just like, now I think about that, I'm like, what the hell? It is so fucking awkward. But
have you been talking
to my
friend? Have you been talking to my one friend? Because he asked the same thing. My good friend Jared. He's an atheist, and he and I talk all the time. We actually have talks kind of like how we're having now, usually like once a month or whatever. And he said the same thing to me, like the same thing that he's like, do you believe that like Jesus is watching you in the bedroom? And like,
well, not just watching, he's in the bed with you. Like, that part of what glorifies God is that he is right there in your bed. And this is like sex is never with two. It's always with three. God is always there. It's just like some weird fucking shit, dude. But like, if you think through the theology of God all the way, you can't escape that. And it's weird, yo. It's just fucking weird. Because he's
Ellen,
just present everywhere. Yeah.
Just on to add to that, like, I learned in Bible college that Jesus was actually going to have sex with the church after the marriage supper in heaven. So it gets a lot weirder. It's not just that Jesus is in your marriage bed. It's that he's literally going to fuck the church in some weird spiritual way.
yep. We don't. I don't think we believe anything like that in Orthodoxy. But I mean,
No, you have to go into an actual cult and cook that shit up yourself, which is where I was.
But Richie, I mean, you do believe that God is omnipresent like that, though, right? I mean,
yes,
isn't that your view?
God is everywhere.
So
But
like he's watching you take a shit, and there's nothing you can do about it.
yeah, I mean, God sees everything you do. So
Yep,
um,
that's weird. He's a voyeur, man.
I'm gonna have to take the L on that one. I
I'm
won't say
sorry
he's
for
in
you.
the bed. I won't say he's not in the bed with you, but
Are you sure?
he definitely can see.
So going off of that, the omnipresent attribute of God, I was taught that God cannot tolerate sin in his presence. And that it's so offensive to him that that any sinner who would happen to be in God's presence suddenly face to face, it would immediately kill them. How does a Christian square that with God being everywhere? Isn't he always in the presence of sin? And if so, doesn't that mean God can tolerate sin indefinitely? Therefore, why does he have to have a final judgment?
Right. So, I mean, the passage that comes to mind, I think it's Isaiah 58:1, where your sins have separated you from me, something like that. But I mean, I take that more in a covenantal sense. But I mean, it's not like it's not like your sin can. It's not like your sin is going to suddenly make God not have the ability to see everything anymore, right? So like it's just more having like like nearness in the sense of like a father-child relationship. So like if you think about the parable of the prodigal son, right? So the son goes and does whatever he wants, right? He's off living a wild, lavish life, and so like the father lets him do that, and so then the son comes back on his own terms, and then the son, like the father, receives him back with joy. So like so yeah, when it says like your sins separate you from me, that's essentially what he's talking about. Is like you if you choose to disobey God, like that's you're separating yourself from him in the sense of a relationship, and God will respect that. By the way,
But
that kind of oh no, go ahead.
well, if God is omnipresent, is he not in the presence of sin?
Yes.
So if God's in the presence of sin and he takes no action, would it be logical that we could say God can indefinitely tolerate sin?
Wait, say that again.
Can God indefinitely tolerate sin? If he can tolerate it being in its presence for a minute or two, or for as long as the earth exists, then wouldn't that follow that God, being all powerful, could tolerate sin indefinitely?
Well, it would mean that it just means that there would be enmity, as the old King James says, enmity between the two parties. So like I could be in the general vicinity of somebody, like somebody could be in the same room as me. I could be shoulder to shoulder with them, but I could absolutely hate their guts, right? I don't want to be friends with them, whatever, right? So like I can be in their presence and they can be in my presence, but that doesn't mean that my feelings towards them are good, right? So like yeah, that's
No,
more.
I get that you wouldn't like it, but can God tolerate sin?
And that's in that sense, yes.
I mean, he's tolerating it now, I would assume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, I would say God tolerates sin all the time.
Yeah. So my question would be, why can't God tolerate sin forever and just not have a judgment? If he can wait so long now, why not just be merciful to the sinners and give us a reprieve?
You know, it's so funny you say that, because I have been toying. Now, obviously, I couldn't. I don't think I could ever come to this position, but I sure as heck want to. Is the idea of universalism, because essentially, I like when it comes to like hell, right, and punishment. What would be the sense of punishing somebody forever, right? Like if you discipline your child, right, the whole purpose of discipline is to teach them a lesson, and then they come back, right, they've learned their lesson, and then hopefully they don't do it again the next time. But it wouldn't make sense to put them on timeout forever, right? Or even like the annihilationist view. The annihilationist view is basically like you put your kid on timeout and then blip, they're out of existence forever. Like or like you put them on timeout for a time and then you just leave them. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So it makes more like the universalist position makes more sense to me.
Okay.
And so but go ahead.
On top of that, real fast, do you believe God has given every person an internal moral compass to know right from wrong?
That's tough.
I mean, he would have to make them responsible.
Well, but that's the thing is like you have people like sociopaths that just don't feel any empathy towards anybody, right? And so you kind of wonder if they have this kind of moral compass or whatever. Like supposedly most CEOs of big like Fortune 500 companies they're sociopaths, right?
But wouldn't we have to argue that God in His sovereignty ordained that they would be sociopaths?
Well,
no.
where I'm going with this is, aren't you right now using that internal God-given moral compass to judge this idea of eternal punishment to be wrong?
Well,
like maybe it is wrong, and God's given you the ability to figure that out on your own. And like maybe this is a test. God presents this idea, this ridiculous punishment that no one would accept. You know, logically, it's immoral, and then He gave you an internal moral compass to figure that out for yourself, and to test you to see if you will stand on morality against this irrational punishment, versus follow this evil God all the way down that road and affirm that yes, people should receive this immoral punishment. And like this, maybe this is my atheist wager. Maybe this is how God separates and judges, based on who will intuitively know that this is wrong and will follow that instead of following an evil God. And the people who are actually going to be judged are the ones that say, you know what, eternal hell, eternal punishment is a good thing, even though God gave them the ability to figure out that it's not. And you're like almost there right now. You're so close. You can sense it.
Yeah, I can't say for sure, but like as far as the moral compass thing, I whether I'm coming to this reason why eternal conscious torment is wrong because God gave me that sense, or if I like my own intuition is just to say that like I'm just coming to this conclusion on my own, right? And so, but how involved God is with my reasoning ability, I am not 100% sure. But I think that I definitely think that more people will be in heaven than what we realize.
Well, I'm betting that if there is a heaven, I will be there, because I will be standing up to this idea of an evil God who would create an eternal conscious torment. And if that God, in fact, is just, perfectly just in the end, He's going to recognize that I figured it out and got it right. And I rejected, even under the threat of hell, I rejected the evil version of this God that Christianity promotes. While at the same time, if I were a Christian and it was time for final judgment, and I worshiped a God that created an eternal hell and then said, yes, people do deserve to go there because, hey, He's God, He can do what He wants, like I would be very afraid that I would end up being thrown into hell simply because I affirmed it as a true justice. You know, there's an ancient story. Historians don't know if it's actually true, but it's stood the test of time. If you've heard of the device called the brazen bull, this guy created this bull, this hollow bull out of brass back in the Bronze Age. And it was an execution device. where you would put someone inside of it and you would build a fire underneath it and it would cook them alive. And as they died, they would scream, and their screams would go through the bull's snout, which was essentially a musical instrument. So you would get to hear them screaming being translated into music. Now, he was very proud of this invention, so he dragged it before the king to show it off. And when he explained how it worked, the king was absolutely horrified, to the point where he threw the inventor into his own invention and cooked him alive, because anybody that would create a punishment like that is a terrible person who deserves the punishment of their own. So that's my atheist wager, is that, this idea of an eternal hell is simply a test. I'm passing the test by opposing it, while the Christians are failing the test by thinking that it's a just punishment, and they could end up inside their own brazen bull.
No, I agree. I think that it is like that's kind of what I was saying before. Is like there's no like rhyme or reason for doing something like that. Like, why would you cook somebody forever and ever? Like screaming in agony, like things like that. But I was going to say, Elliot, if anything, I think you'll go to heaven before I do.
What? Why is that?
Because you're a nice guy. I think you're a good guy, and God will probably have more mercy on you than He will me.
But why would you not go to heaven? Why would I go first?
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't go. I'm just saying.
Well, you said that I would. Why would you be more certain that I would go, like, and less certain that you would? Like, what's wrong with you?
Can I just interject? I have a feeling that was kind of like I don't know what word I'm looking for, where you're just like being nice and saying, "Hey, dude, you're such a nice guy. I think you'll be there."
No, I mean, I'm serious.
I don't think you were trying to. Oh, you actually do think that there's a better chance of him going?
Like he was kind of putting himself down a little bit.
I was trying to bail you out, but okay, good luck with that one. You got to face Elliot now. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I do mean it as a nice thing, but like.
No, I appreciate that, but I'm wondering why your chances are reduced in any way. I mean, are you sure that you're going to heaven?
No, I'm not sure. And no Orthodox Christian would ever say that I am for sure going to heaven.
Do you have any reasons to diminish your chances of going to heaven?
Well, I mean, I have short, like I think about like all the theology that I've read in my life, and like all the lives of the saints, and I think about how many times I fall short of those teachings, like the teachings of Christ, the teaching, like, how many times do I have an opportunity to love my neighbor and I don't do it? And how many times do I have the opportunity to do the right thing and then I don't do it? Right.
Well, it sounds to me like the solution to that is just be like Elliot and I and don't care about that. And then you don't have any reason to feel degraded.
Well, no, but you guys obviously care about doing the right thing.
Oh, I don't care what the ancients say, though. Like you were saying, I don't have any care in the world. What the Bible says, I don't let it dictate my morality for me. I want to do the right thing according to what I think is right, not according to what all these guys say is right.
Well,
so when you say you're falling short according to what? Some other standard that's being dictated to you.
Well, yeah, because I believe that those teachings are like morally good things. So like, I don't know, just like for example, making excuses for people. Like if somebody.
Oh shit! That's what I just did for you a few minutes ago.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like
great. I'm falling short. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're doing a virtuous.
He didn't take the way out.
I didn't take the way out. No, but
Elliot, I think you can leave your mic on. For some reason, I don't think I'm echoing anymore. It went away.
That's good.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have told you I meant to tell you a long time ago. I just couldn't break in.
I don't know how it's straightened out. I adjusted some settings, but nobody knows.
I don't know. We're good. But anyway, before we keep going, Richie, I'm going to go back to your comments. But before we lose everybody, let me just make a few announcements real quick before we keep going, because I don't want to miss out on the opportunities. If you can't get enough of Richie or me, then you need to join us this Sunday at 4 p.m. It's Bondar versus Steakhouse. We are going to pick up our conversation with round 2. We had round 1 last Sunday. It was the intro round. That one was pre-recorded. It was a pre-recorded live. This week is going to be absolutely live. So make sure you subscribe to the Unraveler channel. It's in the info below, so you can continue the conversation there with Richie and myself. It's a great one. As you can see, it's a good conversation. Rich and I have a lot of respect for each other, and it's a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot. I'm learning a lot. He's learning a lot. I'm sure it's just really, really good. So make sure you check out that on Sunday. Tomorrow night on the Unraveler show, Raising Kids After Faith with Dustin Curley and Raphael Goico. They just finished a book that's going to be published here pretty soon called The Testimony of Two Witnesses. And in there, they talk about raising kids after faith, and it's awesome. And I can't wait to host them tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon-ish, I guess it is, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on the Unraveler show. So make sure you check that out if you want to get some insights on raising kids after faith. It's going to be a really great show. Tune in 4:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Then on Wednesday night as well, after us, is Critical Call right here on Skeptic Haven. AJ with Casey Karakoff. So make sure you check that out. It's a good chance for you to call in as well if you have some questions that you'd like to dialogue. That is a phone conversation, so you don't have to show your face if that's the kind of thing you like. Then on Sunday, right after me and Richie, you can call Let's Talk. So that'll be a great show with Steve and SR, Secular Rarity. So make sure you guys call in there as well and talk to them. It's going to be a great time. Steve just released a book called Humanism from the Heart. Go ahead and check that out on Amazon and see what you think. And also tomorrow, or this Thursday rather, continue my Unravelation series. Make sure you check that out. It's every Monday and Thursday. This Thursday's episode is called Why It Takes Time to Feel Like Yourself After Leaving Faith. So a lot of great content, a lot of things going on. If you want to continue the conversation, come find us at Deconversion Nation on Facebook. We'd love to have dialogue with you. It's a good chance for theists, especially, to ask atheists questions and get answers that you may not get anywhere else. You definitely won't get them from your pastor. So make sure you come check us out there at Deconversion Nation on Facebook. With that said, Richie, back to you, man. Hopefully you can remember where we were.
Hey, since you've just done announcements, be a good time to tell you, like we could keep it to 2 hours tonight. I wasn't able to talk to you beforehand because of the audio issue, but
absolutely,
yeah, 2 hours would be a good stopping point just for tonight.
Absolutely, I think that's fine. Richie and I we'll pick up on Sunday anyway, so that's great. So yeah, and if we end sooner, we end sooner. But let's definitely top it off at 2 hours. That sounds like a plan. All right, Richie, what's up, man? Keep going.
You guys don't have any other guys in the back room? Okay, I don't want to hog the time, so.
You.
Although I was hoping that Friendly Aryan would hop in because he said, or she said, whoever it is, said that they had some questions for us they wanted to ask in the chat. But I was like, man, I hope you would pop in, but they never did.
It
so
looked like they dropped out of the chat a little bit ago, I think. So around.
Boo. All right. Well, that's too bad. Hopefully they'll pop in another time.
Maybe next week.
Yeah. All right, Richie. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Or if any of your audience had questions for me, whatever, I could take questions too. But anyway, so we were talking about about how I am not certain that I'm going to heaven, right? And then I don't think nobody is for like. So nobody knows for certain who's going to heaven and who's going to hell. So nobody can say I cannot say, hey, you guys are going to hell because that's not for me to make that judgment call, right? And I can't say that I'm going to heaven because that's not my judgment call. So yeah.
I don't mean to disagree with you right away, but if the Bible is extremely clear, tells you how you get to heaven and what sends you to hell, then if we're to believe that's the truth, wouldn't that give us the yardstick to tell who's going to heaven, who's going to hell? Like if I'm an atheist and I say I just don't believe the gospel, I don't accept Jesus, what possible way could you say that I would be going to heaven after that? I mean, I know you're not God and you can't say for certain in your worldview, but if I reject Jesus, aren't I going to hell? If there's a way for me to still end up in heaven, doesn't that make the Bible false?
No, if there was, only God knows the depths of your heart and my heart, like the deep depths of our own psyche, right? So he knows whether your reasons are legitimate or not, right? And or my reasons for believing are legitimate or not. Like maybe I'm only believing because I gain some kind of benefit from it, and I don't really
Oh, sure.
care.
Yeah. I can see on the Christian side how there could be fake Christians, but on the atheist side, if it says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but through me," and I say I reject that. I reject Jesus. Like, in what circumstances could I then go to heaven?
Okay, so if you were to, let's say you did end up in heaven, right? It would be despite your belief and because of Jesus. Okay, and so basically, like here's the story, right? I'll try to make it quick. So there was obviously the Bible says that drunkenness is a sin, but so we have there was a saint in the church who there was this, he was a teacher of this monk, right? And this monk, he was a drunk, okay? And people would complain about this monk all the time. He was a drunk. Um, but and then when the monk died, the saint, he said that he saw the soul of this monk who was a drunk go to heaven. And so people were like, what? He was a drunkard. How in the world is he in heaven? And he said, well, because when he was young, his mother was like an addict, and when he was young, his parent, like, I forget exactly how the story goes, but essentially his life circumstances when he was a kid traumatized him so much that he turned to alcohol, and alcohol for the majority of his life was how he coped with that trauma. And so what his teacher told him was, okay, every year I want you to take, or like every day I want you to take one less drink, right? One less, like just do the best that you can. Take one less. So that was his repentance, so to speak. And so, like, it wasn't all at one time, but it was a process. So even
Right.
though he died kind of like a drunkard, right, he still had that heart to, like, kind of want to stop. And so
Right.
and so
And
that was
I've heard that story before.
okay.
Here's the difference slightly here. First of all, the story's not in the Bible. People seem to have maybe made it up to justify some sins. Maybe, I don't know.
Well,
But
I'm not sola scriptura, so, but yeah.
sure, but still, I mean, people make stuff up, and it makes for a good story. I mean, I could make up a story similar in its moral that would get me to heaven, even though maybe I wouldn't belong in heaven. But my question for you is there any legitimate reason to reject Jesus?
I would say, okay, so I know a story where and where this woman was sexually abused by this person, by a person who, when he did this to her, he held up a cross. Okay. And so every time he abused her, that was the image that she saw. And so whenever a priest would show her a cross, she would instantly back up. And so if she associates that image with her abuse, then, like, I would say she'd have a legitimate reason to not believe.
You would say that, but maybe God is still going to judge, based on rejection of Christ. I just can't for the life of me, of all the Christians I've known, my own background, like anywhere that I look, reading the Bible, as long as it's within the sphere of Christianity, I cannot find anyone that says, hey, if you reject Christ, you still might make it to heaven. That's remarkable to me. Is that what are you
Well,
saying?
universalists would say they would. Yeah, sure.
Well, the thing is so like I said, Christ, the judgment is based upon what you know. Okay, so like if I like, that's why I say it, like my judgment will probably be more harsh than most other people, because like I've read a lot of, I mean, not like to brag or anything like that, but I've read a pretty decent amount of theology. And so I have more knowledge than probably the average pew sitter, right? And so therefore my judgment will probably be harsher because I know more. I went
Right.
to Bible college, you
Right.
know, so like, you know, so that's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, and so and I'm trying to get a reason out of you for why I might go to heaven, because I'm in the same position that you are with the knowledge base. Like I went to Bible college as well, but how would I get to heaven when not only did I have the knowledge, but I also had a very powerful personal experience with Jesus changing my life, yet today I still reject him? Like, am I not doubly condemned? I mean, I just don't see a path for me within Christianity to get to heaven. That's why I find that remarkable for you to say I might go to heaven.
Well, because I think you're
I mean, I'm
thinking
working
about it.
against Jesus.
What was that?
I'm working against Jesus right now on purpose.
Which is funny because earlier you said you guys said you don't have an axe to grind. So, but
Oh no, I have an axe to grind. I don't remember saying that, but if I did,
I thought I heard Alan say something like that. Like you're not trying to. I don't know. Anyway, you
I don't
didn't
remember saying that.
You didn't use the exact words "axe to grind," but you basically said like, "Oh, I'm not here to convert anybody, or I'm not here to like."
I think what Elliot was saying is we don't go into churches or go knocking
Right.
on doors and telling people, you guys come to us. We're just here doing our thing.
Yeah, we don't pursue it. We just put up our flag. If someone comes to us, that's a totally different thing. But no, I definitely have an axe to grind.
Okay.
Like I resent Christianity as a whole. I resent the Bible, and I have a huge problem with most Christians.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not the judge. I can't say for sure what your eternal destiny is, what mine is. I know you want like a straightforward answer, but I can't give you one. It's
So correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a gospel message that teaches how one can be saved? Because it sounds to me like you're saying if someone comes to you and says, "What must I do to be saved?" You say, "Bro, I don't have a fucking clue. You just get lucky."
well, so the gospel message is pretty much summed up in the Nicene Creed, and which is like the Trinity. Jesus died for our sins. That we look for the resurrection and the life of the age to come. So full preterism is out. But
Right.
so basically the Christian gospel is summed up in the Nicene Creed.
But that doesn't matter though, because like if you don't know the Nicene Creed, you're saying you still have a chance of getting to heaven.
Possibly. Well, I guess that.
So
that
I guess
is
my question is, what's the usefulness of the gospel? What's the point of it? Why doesn't we just close our books and Bibles and just throw them away and just live our damn lives? Because at the end of the day, it's just up to God anyway.
Well, so I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I would say that you're kind of in the same boat, like in the sense of like, in the ultimate sense of like, let's say I adopt your, I know you say you don't have a worldview, but let's say I adopt the position that there is nothing outside of this physical world, right? There's nothing guiding this world. There's nothing, there's no ultimate meaning to it. If there's no ultimate meaning to it, then it's kind of like when Christians say, well, then I might as well just go and pillage and murder and do all these things. It's like, no, even though that's the case, like even though there's no ultimate meaning, that doesn't mean that you have to be a bad person. So
No, it doesn't. But that Christians are trained to say that because it creates this idea in their mind that if you're not a Christian, look at how you're going to live. You're going to pillage and eat babies and kill the world. Like, it's a false dichotomy. That is just not the way it is in reality. That's just what Christians are taught because it creates this fear of not staying inside the mold. But that's not the way we live. I mean, Elliot and I we don't walk around doing any of that shit at all. And there's no ultimate meaning that's been destined for me. I pick my own meaning. I pick my own purpose. And
well, Richie, there's no ultimate meaning in the same way that there's no ultimate government, but there are other levels of meaning. Like, sure. I mean, just because I don't think that there's a God doesn't mean that I'm not going to be subservient to like my city, county, or state. I mean, there's
right. So my point is because you guys kind of made the same point. You're like, well, if it doesn't matter anyway, why don't we just close our Bibles and just live our lives? It's like, well, you should like, obviously, like, I'll admit that I'm a bit of a nihilist. So whether something is whether everything is preordained by God or not, like I don't think it really matters. I think what does matter is the good that you do in this life, and I think that the gospel is a guide in how to do that. And I don't think that I think that maybe some of the versions that you guys have been exposed to, like the hellfire preacher, like the fundamentalist type, it's a different way of thinking, right? When you come to, like, orthodoxy's helped me to view this in a different way.
So one of the things, okay, so Elliot has mentioned before, he's talked about like how in real life nobody actually takes God to the supermarket with them. God is he's not really a reality in life in any other sphere except when it comes to pretty much church. You don't sit down when you drive and like God's not literally taking the steering wheel. He's utterly useless in pretty much any area of life except when it comes to theology. So my point was, even as Christians, you literally live your lives as though there is no God, except when it comes to one very important thing: the gospel. How do you get to heaven? How do you live forever? Like that's the key element. How do you avoid, the penalty of your sin? Like, without that, what other use does the religion have for our lives? If you can't present, here is a definitive way you get to heaven. This is the gospel message. And if you don't believe this, you don't go. If you do believe this, you do go. Without that, I see no usefulness for the religion at all. That's what I mean when I say you might as well close the books and just live your life, because that's what you're doing anyway. You're just adding this layer that is utterly useless as well, because there's no guarantee it does anything anyhow.
Well, let me be clear that, well, first of all, I will say that I do take Jesus with me to the supermarket, but not in a obviously physical way, but I will get to that in a second. But I would say that so how do it's tough because I know what I want to say in my head.
You got a minute and 7 seconds to get it out. So you better hurry up.
All right. Well, I'll just say this then. I'll just say this then. I do take Jesus to the supermarket in the same way that Dirk Willems took his persecutor out of the freezing water and was persecuted for his faith when he heard the teachings of Jesus in his head to say to love your enemies.
What I meant by you don't take Jesus to the grocery store is that Jesus does not actually help you do any of the everyday tasks that you need to survive.
Right, but
that makes sense.
He can help you to make moral decisions.
Moral decisions almost, this is going to blow your mind, but moral decisions almost never enter our lives. It's extremely rare and infrequent. If I just live my life like I do now, like I'm very rarely going to have to make a moral or ethical decision.
When you're filling your cart with groceries, I mean, I'm sure you're not praying before everything. Lord, do I take this steak or this one? Like,
Right.
it just doesn't
It's
come
not a
into
moral
play.
decision to set my alarm clock, to get up in the morning, to take a shower, to go to work, to do my job the way it's supposed.
Oh, I know people that do actually, but I mean, no, I don't. But yeah,
Well, we have hit the 2-hour mark, Elliot. So whatever extra time we spend here is on you. It's your call, buddy.
Well, since you guys are going to be talking later, I just want to have the
Have at
last word.
Have at it. You take as much time as you want. I'll be ready to go when you're done.
Less than 30
you have the last word. Go ahead.
Less than 30 seconds. I just want to say that when Ellen says, "What's the use of it? Close the book and live your life." I'm not basing my objection to Christianity based on its useful or uselessness. My primary objection to Christianity is that it's not true. That's all.
Well, obviously, I agree with that. From Richie's worldview, though, I would say, what's the usefulness of it? Because he thinks it is useful. And I'm like, if it's not even useful for the one thing it's supposed to be useful for, then what exactly is it useful for? It's just odd to me.
Right. But I would rather remove something because there's no, it's not actually true. I mean,
yeah, we can debate this all night. It's fine.
There's fables and stories from our past and parables that are useful, but it doesn't make them true.
Agreed. But I think by and large, the reason faith works is because it embraces something they believe is useful. If there isn't something valuable in it, then they would actually have no reason to continue believing it. So it's the facade of usefulness that keeps the faith empowered, and fear keeps them believing that thing is useful. So that's all my point was, is if, in my opinion, if you can get a Christian to realize, yeah, why the hell do I need this? What's the usefulness of it? I don't even understand the point of it. I think the next step then is to help them see, okay, now that you don't see a use to it, then now we can talk about whether it's real or not, because you're not holding on to something anymore. That was the only point I was making.
Right. It's as useful as any ancient literature would be useful in its context.
Anyway, you said we'd have the last word, but now we're going to let you have the last word, Richie, and then we will hang up.
Why do you have to have me have the last word?
Well, you don't want that. All right, that's the last word. Then you took it.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll just say real quick, there's a normative way to be saved, and then there's exceptions to the rule. Okay. And Elliot, Alan, I think you guys could be an exception if God deems so fit.
All right, Elliot, now you have the last word.
I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. But hey, come see us on Sunday. I can't wait to talk to you. Richie and I have a great time talking. As you guys can see, the dialogue is always delightful with Richie. You can actually have a conversation. I think it's freaking awesome. So we will do that. No? Okay. Well, I'm glad
I will be there.
That's very awesome. Go check out the first one, everybody, if you haven't seen it yet. It was a great conversation to start off the whole series. So, Richie, thanks for joining us, man. I'm just going to keep you on as we say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for joining, everybody. Remember, every Christian has their own version of Christianity. We're here to unravel your conversion. Have a great night.